Alright, I've trained up to level 100, I've got all the best weapons, I'm ready to finally take down this boss! Okay, that didn't quite go as planned, but I'm sure that was just a misclick by me. I'll get him this time! If I roll, I'll get him. Ranged attacks. Just charge straight in! Why can't I beat you? Heh heh heh, big knife go boom. How many of you have played a game that made you want to tear your hair out? All Sonic, sports games, Pokemon, Halo, Call of Duty, and essentially fans of every game besides like Animal Crossing should have just raised their hands. Okay, put your hand up too. Gaming has always been an escape from reality for a lot of people. What better way to calm down and relax after a stressful day of work than to be screamed at by a 12-year-old calling you ethnic slurs on a mic that peaks every 3 words? Ah, the good old days. Video games have been a huge hobby of mine ever since I was a kid. Playing the N64, GameCube, and Game Boy Advance was how I spent countless hours of my childhood. I played mostly for recreation and just pure enjoyment without too many difficult games. I mean, yeah, I struggled with a couple games here and there, but nothing too much. That monkey on Tall Mountain is an asshole, okay, damn it? Some fans like playing games to relax and chill out too, which is where games like Animal Crossing are perfect. But then some fans like to really challenge themselves and test their gaming abilities. And this is where FromSoftware comes into play. FromSoftware is, how do I say this lightly, a group of fucking lunatics who decided to ask the question, what if we made gamers want to kill themselves? Joke's on you, I already do. They have made some of the toughest games out there, all of which people pride themselves on being able to beat. The most famous or notorious would likely be the Dark Souls series. These games are basically every deranged maniac's wet dream. Yeah, let's go fight some skeletons and monsters, this will be so much fun! Until they take 150 hits to defeat and they can take you out in one strong hit. That's fair! It's me. I'm the deranged maniac. The game constantly kicks your ass and laughs at you as you try to escape death's inevitable cold hand. The skill these games take to master even just one specific battling style is incredible, but if you can manage to be good at every class in the games, we may need to form a new religion around you. All the Dark Souls games along with Demon Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne, plus others are the truest testament to see if you are a real gamer. I have massive respect to anyone that can beat all of these games because they are not easy and they will give you lifelong trauma.
Can someone who's good with numbers help me out here? How can I afford these games here and avoid depression while I've only got this much money to my name? And no, I cannot remove these games, don't even try asking.
People were building up endless hype for the next FromSoftware game, and once it was revealed, it became a worldwide phenomenon that even people who hadn't played a Souls game before became enamored by. Everyone wanted to be a part of the craze, which made the newest addition to the series the most popular ever. It hasn't even been out for over a year yet, and it's already sold more than the second highest selling game, Dark Souls 3. I hope everyone who bought the game knew what they were getting themselves into. So why don't we join in on all these people having a great blast and a fun time on their journey. Today, we're taking a look at Elden Ring. Elden Ring was released on February 25th, 2022 for the PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One and Series X, as well as PC. Development began with FromSoftware's developer Hidetaka Miyazaki wanting to create an open-world game with the same gameplay elements and difficulty as the previous Dark Souls games. Basically, a Breath of the Wild clone that would kick you in the dick. Adding a grander world for exploration would increase the depth and experience that the game had to offer, so the development team reached out to George R.R. Martin to help create the game's world. If you don't know who he's the guy that ruined Game of Thrones. Miyazaki believed that asking Martin with the world building would help create the story narrative and make it much more accessible to newcomers than previous entries in the series. But as always, the story is never fully explained and you're left with more questions than answers. Development of the game began officially in 2017. The game took inspiration from many other games that had success in recent years. Shadow of the Colossus, Elder Scrolls, The Witcher 3, and Breath of the Wild were all credited as inspirations for the game's world and overall design, which makes sense. Obviously, they're going to take inspiration from the best open world games of all time, plus The Witcher 3. The game was first revealed during the Xbox Games Conference at E3 2019. This initial reveal left everyone wanting more, so FromSoftware did what every good developer does. They gave us no new information whatsoever for over 2 years until another trailer was revealed in June 2021. There were a few playtesting events along with early access to the beta in November 2021. The game was originally slotted to be released in January 2022, but because of some bugs and frame rate issues, it was delayed a month to help minimize issues along with patches once the game was actually out. I always appreciate games that take bug fixes seriously. Imagine if they didn't. We could have gotten Elden Ring 06. Just gonna write that down real quick. The game takes place in the world called the Lands Between. Between what, you may ask? Between the lands of Bofa. Excuse me, what's Bofa? Bofa, these games. The land is ruled by many demigods and was previously ruled by the Queen Marika, who was the keeper of the Elden Ring. I might be pronouncing her name wrong along with many other characters throughout this video, but honestly, I don't really care. I suck at pronouncing names, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. The Elden Ring is essentially the sign of who's in order across the land. Marika eventually realized that leading a nation is kinda hard and shattered the Elden Ring into pieces. The demigods, which are her children, all began to fight over the pieces of the ring which became their great runes. The player character was a Tarnished that was exiled from the land Between and is now summoned back after the shattering to claim the pieces of the Elden Ring and to become the new Elden Lord. Did you follow all of that? No? Well, I'm sorry, because it's not going to get any easier to understand. The game's open world and exploration is a big part of why I think it's hard to grasp the entire story. There are so many places to go and people to talk to that you kinda lose track of what you're supposed to be doing a lot of the time. Like, okay, I'm supposed to find these ruins, but that guy looked at me funny, so now I've gotta kill him. And what are those ruins behind him? I gotta go check those out. What's this fog? Where the hell am I, and why are there shrimp aliens around me? Why is the sky red? This was what happened to me on my first playthrough, and it took me about like 10 hours to get back to the story. That's what I love about this game though. Yes, there is a story to follow, but it's not necessary to do it right away, nor does it force you to follow that specific path. This is one of the most open world experiences I've ever seen. Just look at this map. You can go basically anywhere here, and when you're like me and you want to travel by foot instead of horseback, all of a sudden you're at 100 hours played and you haven't seen the sun in weeks. What the f is that? The game has multiple endings, so there's no true one path to follow to complete the game. You can beat the game with your maiden by your side, you can ditch that maiden and get yourself an even better maiden, or you can just be bitchless. Guess which one I did. All of the endings take you on completely different journeys, which allows you to play the game again without having the same experience over and over again. Having great replayability is one of the most important aspects to any game, and Elden Ring knocks it out of the park. Plus, the ability to pick your fighter class at the beginning helps you switch up your playstyle every time as well. You can pick between Astrologer, Bandit, Confessor, Hero, Prisoner, Prophet, Vagabond, Warrior, Wretch, or the best one, Samurai. Samurai is my favorite class by far. The movement and sword wielding ability is perfect for how I want to play the game since I enjoy the close combat and find it harder to battle with strictly magic. Why would I want to break the game like this when I could instead just break my sanity? Giving the player the option for all of these different classes makes the game accessible to nearly anyone. No matter how you like to play in games, there's a class for you, which is about the only thing that makes this game accessible because if you're a newbie, man is there a learning curve for the combat. The game gives you a nice little tutorial on how to control your character and do different movements and attacks. The Cave of Knowledge is right at the beginning of the game before you even enter the Lands Between and the rest of the game. This is a perfect little area to help newcomers and even veterans hone their skills before they get thrown to the wolves. Well, not before being thrown to a literal demon crab bug human hybrid thing. Shout out to the Grafted Scion for kicking my ass harder than any other enemy in the game before even playing this for 5 minutes. Honestly though, as much as it's helpful to have a tutorial at the beginning like this will not make you comfortable with the game's controls. The only way to actually master and be able to function is to just play the game and figure it out as you go. You need to battle enemies repeatedly to truly feel how your character moves and reacts to attacks. Fighting enemies and learning how far your character can reach with their weapon or how far they can dodge with their roll is the most important part of this game. If you're even an inch off on your dodges, you'll be sliced and diced to death. This is why I think some people can be turned off by the game. It's not easy by any means, and it's a completely different way to learn than other games. Normal games, you read the instructions, beat the first area, and you're good to go. Elden Ring, just bash your head into the wall over and over until you barely win. But when you do finally get the hang of the controls and don't feel the need to sneak around enemies, it's the most wonderful feeling. Until this guy shows up and you rethink your life choices. My favorite and least favorite part of this game is definitely the bosses. Every single boss in this game looks so badass and intimidating to really make the fight with them seem meaningful. This just makes me hungry. Even the very first boss, Margit, gives such a huge presence, he makes you scared that you're gonna die. I'm not lying when I say this is one of the most memorable first bosses in any games I've ever played. Almost as memorable as King Bob-omb. That's the real face of terror right there. The only problem with Margit is that he's immediately followed by Godric, who's the biggest pushover in the whole game. Beat him on my first try with no struggles. More like peasant trick. Then also Queen Renala is a complete pushover, but at least she doesn't try to act all super powerful. Godric literally has a god complex and even rips his arm off to show his toughness. Cool trick, Peasant Rick, but you're still dead. There are definitely better bosses than others, with my personal favorites being either Radahn or Godfrey. Radahn's fight is an amazing team fight where you can summon other warriors from the lands between to join you and take him out. His attacks are so much fun to dodge, and he even turns into a freaking meteor falling to earth to start a second phase. Amazing boss fight, and an even better person because he loved his horse so much that he learned gravity magic just so he wouldn't crush it while riding it. Genuinely better love story than Twilight. And then Godfrey is the first Elden Lord who you fight right before the final boss. His dope tiger look with a big ass axe left a huge impression on me, since we all know I love characters with weapons that are way too big for them. Then his second phase starts with him murdering his own tiger to cover himself in blood, and he turns into a wrestler. If Radahn and his horse are the true lovers of this game, Godfrey and his tiger are the game's depiction of domestic abuse. He goes from slow to lightning quick with crazy grab and earthquake attacks, and makes for one of the most fun battles in any game I've ever played. On the complete flip side of those fights, we have Malekith the Black Blade, and I only have one thing to say to him. Fuck you, Malekith! This is the only fight in the game that actually made me angry. Even the freaking Godskin duo wasn't this hard for me. I beat them on like my 10th or so try, but Malekith? I'm surprised I'm not still fighting him to this day. He starts off as the Beast Clergyman, and it doesn't seem like the battle is gonna be too difficult. He's slow and his attacks are relatively easy to dodge. But the second you get him to half health, you better run for your life, because Malekith is a completely different beast. He jumps all around the arena doing unnecessary flips and shit while throwing energy beams at you that not only do a crap ton of damage, but also drains your health faster than you can say Malekith. Damn it! The fact that there are people out there that can beat this fight without taking any damage just blows my mind. I am not worthy of these gods' abilities. I needed to get my own summon to be able to inflict the same health draining effect on Malekith to make it even. If nobody got me, I know Black Knife Tish got me. And there was only one other boss in the game that even comes close to Malekith in terms of bullshittery. In fact, I'd say it's the bullshittiest of all bullshit fights in existence. That of course would be Malenia, the Blade of Mikola. Sorry. I just have PTSD from hearing that so many different times. When I said Malekith is the only fight that made me angry, that's because Malenia made me consider blasting myself into space without a suit on. The closest thing I can compare fighting Malenia to is it's like putting your balls in a blender. I'm not doing a cutaway joke for this one. My gosh, the crazy attack she has with her wild speed and her reach of her sword makes this easily the most difficult fight in any game I've ever played. And then when you finally think you've won, nope! She goes apeshit and has even more horseshit attacks than she did before. This fight is every kind of shit, except the music, because that's just perfect. The music overall is incredible, with some of the most grand, fitting, epic, and overall phenomenal sounding tracks for each fight in the game. This is on par and arguably better than some of the biggest films out there. It's amazing how far gaming has come over the years. We've gotten to this, all the way from this. To be fair, that tune is a banger though. Overall, this is one of the most ridiculously difficult games you will ever play, and it'll make you want to pull your hair out. But man, is it fun! Even with the super high difficulty, it's a game that has so much to offer for everyone. It has multiple story paths to follow, so no two playthroughs will be the same. And even if it didn't have those different paths, each playthrough probably still wouldn't be the same because of how damn big the world is. With countless areas to explore and little secrets and enemies to battle, there's no shortage of things to experience. You could play like 25 hours and not even beat the first boss because you ran off to do other things, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nobody can tell you how to play an open world game. That's the whole point. Open world games have become the big new craze in this era, and it's clear developers are getting better and better at them. This is maybe the best open world game I've ever played, and with how much I love Breath of the Wild, that's saying a lot. I'm gonna be very interested to see if they make an Elden Ring 2 in the future, or just a new game in this style under a different title. I will be the first in line to buy it, and I recommend that you all do the same too. Or you could just give yourself a lobotomy and do the same thing.